got a question for you this morning. And I need participation, whether it's hands, whether it's voices. Have you ever found yourself in a situation with no defense? You ever been in it? I'm getting heckled and I'm only 30 seconds into it. Come on. You ever been in an argument? Or you ever found yourself in the line of fire and you were just like, yeah, okay, I got nothing. Like it's so obvious that I'm wrong or that I miscalculated this, that even people like me, and I know there are some of you out there who love a good argument, even you in this situation are just like, yeah, okay, I got nothing. And so you remain awkwardly silent instead. You find yourself standing there with nothing to say. Well, you know, this happened to me just this past week as I was wandering around the shops looking for Easter eggs for my kids, thinking about chocolate, but trying not to think about chocolate. Who knows what I'm talking about? And all of a sudden I remembered this incident that happened, this exact scenario where I was left with zero defense, absolutely nothing to say when I was a kid. I remember it was a Saturday morning, right? And I'd just come out of my room having played with my Lego for a couple of hours. And as I walked around the house, all of a sudden I realized two things. Firstly, I realized everyone in my family was outside. The second thing I noticed was a box that happened to be sitting on the dining room table. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a house that had a kitchen table and a dining room table. Who grew up in a house that had both? Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, but in my house, we always ate at the kitchen table, right? Apart from Christmas dinner, apart from the very rare occasion, Mum and Dad, were brave enough to invite people into the chaos of 4 children. We always ate at the kitchen table, not the dining room table. And so because of this, most of the time, the dining room table acted like a bit of a pseudo-office / workstation for my mum. Like she had her sewing machine on there, always sewing buttons and fixing school uniforms. She had, work laptops. She had her craft projects spread out all across this table. And I remember this particular day as I came through the lounge room noticing this box sitting next to Mum's work laptop. Now, my mum was a teacher. Any teachers out there? 4 teachers. Any teachers out there? I know that. Yeah, that's right. Now 14. I don't know what it is about schools. I tell you, there's 3 industries. Schools, not-for-profit organizations like Scouts, and local sporting clubs seem to have a unique fascination / bordering obsession with Cadbury fundraising chocolates. Am I right? I mean, seriously, who here has ever brought home Cadbury fundraising chocolates? Whether it was your kid, whether it was you, it was probably for a new football jersey for the club or a slide at school, but they're everywhere and they seem to just be in these 3 industries. And as soon as I saw this fundraising box, I mean, they're unmistakable, right? Purple, rectangle, those cardboard handles. As soon as I saw this box, instantly, I wanted chocolate. Now, I have to confess that several times in my life, I have done a cheeky IOU for a Cadbury fundraising chocolate. Who knows what an IOU is? I'll tell you what it is. It's this. I don't have a $2 coin in my pocket right now, and I don't want to break my 50. But I know I have like $140 worth of gold coins down the side of the car seat in the middle console, right? And so I'm going to indulge in this chocolate now, and I'll fix up my tab later. Who's done an IOU? Yeah, most of you. I don't think you've lived if you haven't done an IOU. And anyone who's ever done an IOU for a fundraising chocolate knows that there's one crucial rule when doing an IOU for a fundraising chocolate, and it's this. There has to be a minimum of 5 or 6 chocolates already gone if you're going to pull this off, right? There has to be some kitty already in that orange envelope if this is going to work. Otherwise, it's impossible. Otherwise, people freak out, to the chocolate and missing money ratio, and it's just a no-go zone. And so when I saw this box, immediately I was like, I have to have a Freddo, right? That smiling frog face, that Cadbury goodness. I mean, honestly, what chance does a 5-year-old kid have against the power and the might of a Cadbury fundraising chocolate box when no one's around? Well, as I opened the box, disaster. Total disaster. You see, I was greeted with the worst possible scenario. Not a single chocolate was gone. Like this was a brand newie. And I was like, oh no, it couldn't be worse. Now normally, like I said, you can't do an IOU in your right mind if there are no chocolates gone. Well, I was not in my right mind. I mean, does this happen to anyone else? As soon as my brain makes my stomach a promise, especially chocolate, there's no way out of it, right? It's like a small child kicking and screaming. It's like, no, I don't care what you say. Until I get that chocolate, I will not stop fussing. You promised me a chocolate. Who has these conversations with their stomach? Thank you. I'm normal. Well, I really had no choice, and so, like I said, I found myself going and grabbing this Freddo, and I took it back to my room, and in the complete darkness of my wardrobe, because anyone knows that's where kids go to do shady stuff, I sat in my wardrobe and I ate this Freddo, and for 90 seconds I was in heaven as I delivered on this promise to my stomach. Now, I'd love to tell you that the story finishes there, but unfortunately it doesn't. You see, as I was sitting there in the darkness, licking my lips clean of chocolate, all of a sudden the reality of my situation caught up with me. And I began to think, oh no, there's a missing chocolate in the fundraising box. And there's no money in the envelope. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to be busted if I don't think of something fast. And so what follows I can only describe as the brilliance of a 5-year-old brain, right? Who's got kids here? Come on, who's got kids here? Who's ever witnessed their children do or say something that just leaves you bewildered, right? You just kind of stare at them and you think, like, what part of your brain, child, did not realize that would be a bad idea? Well, this happened to me. Just a couple of days ago, in fact, I have a 5-year-old myself. And all of a sudden I hear my almost 2-year-old screaming at the top of his lungs, crying. And so I come into the playroom where they're at, and I notice that somehow my 5-year-old has managed to lean a camping mattress against a bookshelf that's almost 6 foot tall, and somehow he's managed to get his scooter to the top of this camping mattress, and his 2-year-old baby brother, and then proceeds to send his 2-year-old baby brother down this makeshift ramp on a Kmart scooter. And I'm just like, what were you thinking? And he just kind of looked at me with the most innocent and sincere eyes, right? It was just like, Dad, I didn't think he'd get hurt. I'm like, whoa, kid's brains, right? Well, I had one of these moments. You see, as I began to panic in the dark wardrobe about this missing chocolate issue, all of a sudden I thought, hang on, this won't be an issue. It won't be so obvious that there's a missing chocolate if there aren't any chocolates. Genius, right? Not really. I didn't think this through. And so in the spur of a moment, I went back to the lounge room and I grabbed the entire box of Freddo Frogs and proceeded to eat the other 39 in the box. Yes, you guessed it, in the darkness of my wardrobe. Now, honestly, I don't even know how I actually managed to finish that much Freddos. And despite feeling a little bit nauseous, at the end of it, I was like, actually, I think I've pulled this off. I think this is problem solved. Well, later that night, surprise, surprise, Mum notices that the entire box of fundraising chocolates is no longer on her workstation. And so she rustles up Dad's. Where's all my dads? Dads are the enforcers, right? She rustles up Dad's to go and do the interrogating. And so Dad gets me and my 3 siblings out and begins to interrogate us. Now, I got to tell you, to begin with, it was actually looking pretty good. You see, I'm one of 4, and I have 2 older brothers who are much worse than me. And so all suspicion was pointed at them initially. I was like, I think I'm going to pull this off. Well, unfortunately, the unthinkable happened. Well, for my 5-year-old brain anyway. You see, I don't know about you, but when I was little, I pretty much thought that down the side of the bed, you know, that crack between the bed and the wall, I thought that was pretty much a black hole. You know, things that dropped down there were never recovered. I mean, it was dark down there. It was intimidating. The boogie monster lived down there. And so I thought, where else could I think of a better hiding place for 40 Freddo Frog wrappers and 1 squashed fundraising chocolate box than down the side of my bed? Well, turns out dads aren't intimidated by the crack between the bed and the wall. In fact, it's in the top 3 places they look first. And so as I was brought into my bedroom, I came face to face with this sea of Freddo Frog wrappers as Dad had pulled the bed out from the wall. And I just had no defense. I just had nothing to say. What could I say? And this morning I want to tell you a story from the Bible about a woman who, like me, had 0 defense. A story that if you've ever been in church or hung around faith before, I'm sure you've heard of, but you probably didn't realize it was actually about Easter. And so if you've got a Bible with me, why don't you turn to John chapter 8, starting in verse 1, or just listen as I read along. It says, Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. And as he was speaking, the teachers of religious law put in front of the crowd a woman who was caught in the act of adultery. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? Now, before we go too far, to understand this story properly, we have to understand the political war that Jesus is in that forms the context of this story, right? You see, when Jesus comes on the scene, immediately he becomes public enemy number 1 of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. A, because the Jewish people love Jesus, like his approval ratings are through the roof, and they are totally jealous. And B, because they think what Jesus is teaching and preaching is heretical. See, the Pharisees and the religious leaders of his day totally missed the point of Moses and the prophets, of what a covenantal relationship with God actually looked like. They thought that they could buy God off with a bunch of religious activity on the side of an otherwise sinful worldly life. But they failed to see that God wasn't after their religion. God wasn't after their duty. God was after their heart. God was after relationship. And the kind of relationship that transformed the way they lived, both with God and with His creation, particularly other people. And so you got to picture this, right? Jesus is in the temple, teaching the people about what the real heart of faith is about, what a relationship with God really looks like. Everyone's listening. It's completely chill. And then all of a sudden, like a scene out of Jerry Springer, this mob, boom, bursts through the door. And they're dragging this woman who's kicking and screaming, "Let me go! Let me go!" And they manage to push through the crowd. And they get to the feet of Jesus and throw this woman down. And then they yell at Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was just caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says we should stone them. What do you say?" I mean, talk about an interruption to your Thursday morning Bible study, right? You see, these religious leaders, they're trying to trap Jesus. They're trying to make a hypocrite out of him. They're like, "Come on, Jesus. You say you're all about the heart. You say you're all about, bringing good news to the poor, setting the captive free, bringing sight to the blind, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's your chance, buddy. Oh, but FYI, don't forget our entire faith is built on the teachings of Moses and the prophets, who said that if a person commits adultery, then the punishment was death, that we were to stone them. So what's it going to be, homeboy? Defend this woman or defend your ministry? And I want you to imagine how this woman must have been feeling in this situation. What must have been racing through her mind as all of this is unfolding around her? I mean, she's totally exposed, right? She's probably trying to do her best to hide her nakedness with a pillowcase or a bedsheet or something that she was able to grab as she was dragged out of the bedroom and into the temple. She's sitting there, right? In front of her friends, in front of her work colleagues, in front of her family, caught red-handed with no defense. And this holy man is asked, "And what do you say about this?" I mean, can you imagine what she must have been thinking? What do you think he's going to say about this? You think he's going to pick me over his ministry? You think he's going to speak for me, advocate for me, a sinner, and risk his future, risk his credibility? I mean, even if the rumors are true, right? And he is good. Even if the rumors are true and he is kind. What can he say? What can he actually do? I mean, I am guilty. And you know what? This is probably what every other bystander must have been thinking. This is probably exactly what the Pharisees are thinking when they drag this woman in at the feet of Jesus. They're thinking, what can he say? We've got him. 1 point to Team Pharisees, 0 points Team Jesus. But you know the most amazing part of this story? Jesus doesn't see this woman as collateral damage. Jesus doesn't see this woman as someone who got what they deserved and, hey, gee, I'd love to help you, but I really can't. Jesus doesn't view this woman as some periphery pawn in a much bigger political game. No, this woman, this brokenness, this is Jesus' game. Amen? This is everything that he's about. The craziest thing is that this was actually the very heart and essence of what Moses and the prophets were all about too. That God, in his love, desired a relationship with humanity. That God, in his grace, despite humanity sabotaging it, would provide both the method and the means to restore that broken relationship. And that God, in his mercy, would advocate for sinners. Would speak on behalf of people like this woman. Completely guilty with absolutely no defense. You see, this was the entire story of the Old Testament. This was what Moses and the prophets were actually all about, but the Pharisees missed it. You see, Moses didn't actually say that a person who committed adultery had to be stoned. No. The punishment for adultery was death. But the Lord gave the victim the choice on whether or not they enforced it. See, if a person was found guilty of adultery, then the offended party had two choices. Demand justice, in which case they themselves had to throw the first stone, or forgive and show mercy. You see, what the law of Moses actually longed for was that even a person so grieved by the betrayal of a loved one, standing there with a rock in their hand, would ultimately be aware of their own shortcomings, their own guilt, and that they would choose mercy instead of justice. What the law of Moses really longed for was that Israel, God's chosen people, would be a testimony of what God is really like. That they would demonstrate to the nations around them of what God's love looks like by choosing mercy instead of justice. By choosing to voluntarily suffer on behalf of someone else, even someone who had deeply wronged them and hurt them. Well, the Pharisees are getting agitated with Jesus because he's just drawing in the ground. He's not answering them at this stage. And so they get more and more fired up and begin demanding an answer from Jesus. So Jesus eventually stands up and he lands what honestly can only be described as one of the biggest drop the mic moments in the Bible, right? Verse 6. They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. I mean, how epic is Jesus, right? And I love how this story ends. You see, Jesus speaks for this woman, offers her a defense when she hasn't got one. But just in case she's not sure if this is some publicity stunt or if this is too good to be true, when everyone else has gone, when the only person left standing with this woman is the only person who could actually condemn her, what does Jesus say? Verse 10, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. You see, Jesus speaks for this woman and silences her accusers. His mercy speaks for her, catch this, and offers restoration, not condemnation. And you know the amazing thing about this story? Is that this is the story of Easter, right? This is the profound wonder of the cross. That mercy spoke for us. That despite having zero defense, no alibi, drowning in sin or addiction or distraction or brokenness like this woman, that Jesus would advocate for us. That His mercy through the cross and resurrection would speak for us, would speak on our behalf and declare opportunity where there was once only depravity. Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? Neither do I. Go and sin no more. Friends, I don't know where you're at this morning. Maybe you're like the Pharisees, hopelessly guilty at attempting to buy God off with some religious activity while your heart remains unchanged. Or maybe you're like the woman and you're drowning in sin or brokenness. You're suffocated with fear or anxiety, living a life punctuated by never feeling good enough, never feeling worthy of love and belonging. Friends, this is the hope and the life-changing power of Easter, that you have been spoken for. That mercy spoke for you. That mercy spoke for you.
In a hill in Israel, mercy spoke for me. Mercy spoke for me. Mercy spoke for me. It was on Golgotha's tree. His death brought liberty. His death brought liberty. His death brought liberty. May I never boast in anything except the cross of Jesus Christ. May I not forget the blood He shed. It is by His death I am alive. Because of Christ I am alive. What a humble sacrifice, love that washed me clean, love that washed me clean, love that washed me clean. What a blessed mystery, His punishment my peace, His punishment my peace, His punishment my peace. May I never boast in anything except the cross of Jesus Christ. May I not forget the blood He shed. It is by His death I am alive. May I never boast in anything except the cross of Jesus Christ. May I not forget the blood He shed. It is by His death I am alive.
You know, we're going to take communion as a church now. But I actually just want to give you an opportunity as you come and take part in the elements. There's two groups of people that I want to give an opportunity. We're going to have some people up the front who are going to here to pray with you if you want. And as people come and take communion, I want to give two people the opportunity, two groups of people. If you've never experienced what it feels like for mercy to speak for you, I want to invite you, as people come and participate in communion, to come and find someone to pray with you, to come and feel the hope and the life where the burdens lift off, when mercy speaks for you. The second group of people I want to pray for this morning is if you know what it's like for mercy to speak for you. You've been there, you've done that. You go to church now and then. My question is this: mercy has spoken for you, but has mercy changed you? Are you caught in a rut? Are you like the Pharisees, trying to buy God off with a little bit of religious activity on the side of an otherwise sinful or worldly life? Because mercy didn't speak for that. Mercy spoke for you to experience life, for you to be changed. Amen? And so as you come now and participate in communion, if you've never experienced mercy speaking for you, or if you need mercy to change you, I want you to come down and pray with me and some of the team. I don't want you to miss this opportunity that God died and rose again for. Amen.